we've got your preferred email, we'll be sending the link to the recording to all participants. We realize some attendees may join a little late, and that's perfectly fine. And it's going to be monitoring for guests who might need to be let into the conference late, so no worries there. All right, and here's our agenda for tonight. We've got a lot of information to share, so we'll make it a point to be respectful of your time. However, if you still have questions at the conclusion of the meeting, we'll be more than happy to address those privately. And also, I see Anne has put a note there in the chat. If you have questions that come up for you as we're going through the material, it would be tremendously helpful if you can put those into the chat, and we'll address them during the time that we've got reserved for the Q&A toward the end of our meeting. All right, and so if we could have the next slide. Terry, thank you. Well, I'm Jennifer Vogel, Director of Training. I've been a member of ICF since 2005. I'm an ICF MCC, an ICF trained assessor, a trained mentor with a background in college instruction. And we'll revisit my personal MCC journey when we discuss our unique program, but I don't want to delay introducing you to our faculty. I feel so honored and blessed to be working side by side with two of my dearest friends, and I could not imagine being on this journey without them. Anne Coelho is a senior faculty member, and being the great role model Anne is, she actually earned her PCC following cohort 1. Anne is a retired Delta Airlines executive who's coached over 600 clients in leadership development. She's also an expert in organizational development and has led a number of those initiatives. And then we move on to Terry. Terry Hoffman is a senior faculty member, and like Anne, is serving as a great role model. Terry applied for her MCC following cohort 1 as a licensed mental health therapist. Terry's our faculty expert at clarifying the distinctions between pure coaching and therapy. She's also the recent past president of the North Florida chapter of ICF and is an active contributor to ICF Global. Terry's also trained as an assessor and has been trained in providing mentoring to coaches. We want to share just a bit about ICF, or the International Coach Federation, as some in attendance may not be familiar with ICF. ICF is the only globally recognized credentialing body for coach practitioners as well as coach training programs. Additionally, ICF accredits third-party training providers who must complete a rigorous review, audit, and approval process to ensure every aspect of the curriculum aligns with ICF core competencies and the Code of Ethics. Let's take a look at the 3 levels of individual credentials, the ICF awards. One thing to keep in mind is no ICF credential can be applied for at any level without first meeting the prerequisites of training, professional coaching experience, and successful completion of the comprehensive written exam, the CKA, or Coach Knowledge Assessment. So those 3 elements are common across the board. There are multiple paths an individual may choose, which makes the process quite complex, but it doesn't have to be. In our program, we're personally invested in guiding our students toward their personal goals and stay with them following graduation, regardless of the level they might be seeking. The only path that allows applicants to bypass recordings and transcripts is applying through the ACTP path. We'll talk more about that later. Additionally, any other training hours besides an ACTP program would require investing in 10 hours of mentoring. The mentoring is already embedded in our program and far exceeds the 10-hour requirement. Let's take a look at that first box there. The ACC Associate Certified Coach is the first level of credential for ICF coaches. It requires 60 hours of accredited training in order to apply, and applicants must have completed 100 plus hours of professional coaching experience. This is considered the starting point for the credentialing journey, and it takes a person, on average, there's always exceptions, but on average 1 to 2 years to obtain this level. There are always exceptions, as it depends on how quickly the candidate has completed the 100 hours of experience. If you look at that center box there, the PCC, or Professional Certified Coach, is the next level of credentialing and requires 125 plus hours of accredited training and 500 plus hours of coaching experience. Like the ACC, unless the applicant is applying through the ACTP path, PCC applicants must submit recordings, transcripts, and secure 10 hours of mentoring. Most PCC candidates have held an ACC for 3 to 5 years before applying for the PCC level. And finally, the MCC, or Master Certified Coach, is ICF's highest level of credentialing possible for the coaching profession. There's only one path to the MCC, and that's the portfolio process. MCC applicants must have completed 200 plus hours of accredited training, completed 10 hours of mentoring, accumulated 2,500 plus hours of professional coaching experience, submit performance evaluation recordings with transcripts, and must have earned a PCC credential. Fewer than 10% of all coaches worldwide ever pursue the MCC due to the rigorous nature, and only approximately 4% actually earn the MCC. On average, MCC applicants have been coaching professionally for over 10 years. So that takes us to the next slide. And the second main function we mentioned on our ICF slide, and that is the accreditation of training providers. Securing your training through an ICF accredited program ensures your credit hours will be awarded and applied. The first box is the CCE, Continuing Coach Education, and it's intended for third-party training providers who are interested in having their training accredited by ICF. CCE units are considered supplemental and often specialized or niche area advanced education for those seeking new learning or renewing their credential. CCE units may be awarded as core competency training or resource development training. Units are determined on a case-by-case basis. That middle box, the ACSTH, stands for Accredited Coach-Specific Training Hours that are considered a la carte training programs, which may or may not provide start-to-finish coach training. However, every ACSTH does have to have a minimum of 30 student contact hours in order to apply for accreditation. And the final box, the ACTP, or Accredited Coach Training Program, is considered an all-inclusive, start-to-finish coach training program. The program requires a minimum of 125 plus hours of student contact and must pass an extensive audit process, including sample recorded evaluations of students with all accompanying transcripts, written evaluation forms, written feedback, and methodology for determining student performance level. ACTP program accreditation is the most rigorous of all ICF training providers, and for that reason, generally takes 2 to 3 years to obtain. Prior to application, ACTP providers must have completely implemented a full training cycle of the entire program, producing a group of successful graduates who consistently demonstrate coaching mastery at the PCC level. As part of the program audit, coaching performance evaluation recordings must be validated by 4 independent ICF assessors before the ACTP accreditation will be awarded. And that takes us to our next slide. And we'll move into some global coaching trends. The 2020 Global Coaching Trends Report, this study was commissioned by ICF in 2019 and completed by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2020. This builds on prior studies completed in 2007, 2012, and 2016. The full report's over 130 pages, so this will just be a small sampling of topics we felt most relevant to your interests tonight. And the next slide, we see that as of 2020, there are 30,079 ICF credentialed coaches worldwide, representing a 33% increase since the 2015 study. As you'll notice on the chart, the majority of those are ACC coaches, with 16,898 ACC coaches, 11,946 PCC coaches, and 1,235 MCC coaches. And of all the coaches surveyed, over 50% strongly agree that clients expect coaches to be credentialed. This is aggregate data, including private and corporate coaching, but on the corporate side, the demand for credentialed coaches is even higher. Next slide. Some notable global trends here. The first one, global revenue for the coaching industry is $2.85 billion, which represents a 25% increase since 2015. The second one, there's been a dramatic increase in managers and leaders using coaching skills, which was reported at 37% in 2015 and 55% in 2019. 93% of internal coaches have received coach-specific training, 79% of those through accredited providers. There's been a shift. This is a nice shift because the perception of coaching has shifted from remedial to investment in high potential talent. And finally, there's been a growing utilization of artificial intelligence and virtual coaching. And I happen to know Julie has some special expertise around that, so we might hear some wonderful insights from her later on in the program. And certainly 2020 was a year like no other we've ever witnessed. Since this important global study was undertaken just prior to the onset of COVID, a supplemental follow-up was completed to gather data around the impact of COVID. That first bullet there, 49% of all coaches experienced reduced income by 30 to 40%. 37% experienced reduced hours. 65% of internal coaches anticipate an increase in demand for coaching across their organizations as we emerge from COVID. And next, we want to look at a summary and our response. We take these findings very seriously. As a look at our helps us project what's out on the horizon. Our focus on continuous improvement informs programming to ensure we remain agile and our students are prepared for coming industry trends. And the great news is the coaching industry continues to grow. There's strong recognition of the need for quality credentials and qualifications. There's a need to anticipate and prepare for the increasing utilization of artificial intelligence. We do that through our training as our program emphasizes human connection, intuition, and emotional intelligence, all which are outside the limitations of AI. In general, any task that can be learned can be replicated by artificial intelligence. Pure coaching is not task driven. So the more we build our pure coaching toolkits, the better we'll be prepared to meet the coming challenges. Training providers need to be prepared to equip coaches with the skills they'll need to compete in the post-COVID landscape. And finally, consumers of coaching services have been forced to become more agile, improve efficiencies, and increase their ROI. So we address this through teaching laser coaching principles and techniques to deliver exceptional results in reduced session timeline. So I mentioned when I introduced myself, we would revisit my MCC journey when we discuss our training program, because I don't know any other way to communicate what's so different about this program. I've had a lifelong dream of creating a holistic system and approach that would help people identify and live out the best possible version of themselves. Since I didn't personally know anyone who was doing that way back in 1993 when I first started, I earned a BS in psychology and began an MA in counseling, completed a number of certifications, including a fitness certification, a nutrition certification, spiritual healing, and then rolled in a Master of Science in HR, certification in Six Sigma, PMP certification, NLP certification, and neuroscience certification. I took my first coach-specific training course in grad school, but it was not an accredited training program. But over an 8-year period, I had amassed well over 300 hours of training and way over 2,500 hours of professional coaching. The thing that I needed was a mentor. So I hired a mentor to help me prepare for the MCC. I had all the qualifications, and but I was told my goal was foolish. At that time, there wasn't anything prohibiting anyone from pursuing an MCC through the portfolio process without a prior ICF credential. But I guess no one had ever had the gall to presume to do that before, is what I could gather. One after another, ICF, PCCs, and MCCs I really respected told me what I was attempting could not be done. I heard many stories from PCCs who had been at that level for years and had applied for the MCC and were denied. It sort of created this crisis of belief for me, a dilemma of whether or not to scrap the notion and just take the path of least resistance and seek the ACC instead. And, you know, as I was reflecting on this earlier this week, my mind landed on hopelessness and the purpose that can serve in our lives. Sometimes hopelessness can be a gift. It can guide us to throw in the towel when the time has come. And that act of throwing in the towel can be the gateway to a beautiful new reality we would have missed otherwise. In other instances, hopelessness and throwing in the towel would be detrimental. If we give up too soon, we stand to miss out on what could be our greatest contribution and purpose. The key is recognizing which is which. And that doesn't come through following a formula or simply applying intellect or going with our feelings. Knowing the difference requires wisdom and discernment that we only have access to through complete integration of mind, body, and spirit. Our training program, while it's academically rigorous and will thoroughly equip graduates with mastery of all 8 core competencies and all of the corresponding PCC markers, the parallel path provides graduates with personal transformation through mastering personal equilibrium. So what did I do? Against all odds, I followed my heart's calling and threw caution to the wind and went for it. The portfolio process is pretty intimidating, and it was nearly 8 months before I received my credential, but I got it. That was one crucial step that kept me on the trajectory of creating the training program I had envisioned decades before, just didn't know exactly what it would entail. ACTP accreditation makes the MCC portfolio process look like child's play. Again, lacking precedent, I sought the inclusion of others with far more resources, the financial backing, and way more horses than I had to tackle such a massive undertaking. But there was no appetite within the organization I was offering to partner with. So once again, I faced the dilemma to throw in the towel or proceed. In 2020, you guessed it, I completed the 300-page textbook, developed all of the curriculum for a 150-hour program, and with the help of Ann and Terry, we launched our first cohort in July of 2020. We've been under the review process since January 2021 with an anticipated award date coming in June. And so that leads to our next slide. What's in it for you? Well, what's unique about this program, you get the 3 for the price of 1 faculty. It is an all-inclusive 150-hour program. So that's 25 hours above the PCC requirement and just 50 hours away from the MCC requirement. So that's a huge add. You will have mastery of all the competencies. And our teaching is not in linear, stepwise, checklist fashion. That is one of the challenges training programs have faced in the past, but we share with you our proprietary inside-out coaching model to master all of the competencies in a much more natural, organic fashion that avoids that linear checklist kind of approach. We support you through in-depth mentoring and actionable feedback. We follow up with you to ensure you've been able to apply that feedback. We provide ongoing alumni support following graduation, and we seek to build connections and strategize ways to get your coaching hours completed. Next slide is the why the time is of the essence. Why now? Well, cohort 2 has a unique value opportunity for participants to secure ACTP training at a significantly reduced rate per training hour. Our complete program, including mentoring, is approximately $500 less than a similar ACSTH offering 125 hours, but still needing to hire a mentor for the additional investment of anywhere from $1,600 to $3,500 on top of that to meet the mentoring requirement to apply for a credential. Our ACTP is not yet official, but our accreditation should be awarded prior to program launch. We are not asking students to assume any risk, but we want you to reap all of the benefits. So we're so confident that our program will be granted full ACTP that if for any reason it does not occur, you have the option of a full refund prior to program start if you so choose, full refund of any tuitions to that point. And we're not looking to take your money. We're in it for the long haul. We're interested in creating lifelong relationships that are mutually rewarding and beneficial. We're building a thriving coaching community and transforming the world one person at a time. I came across this quote here from Warren Buffett last week, and I really love this because when I read it, it so resonated with me. Surround yourself with people who push you to do and be better. No drama, no negativity, just higher goals and higher motivation. Good times and positive energy. No jealousy or hate. Simply bringing out the absolute best in each other. This is our experience, and this is how we operate. And so that leads right into our next slide. As you take a look at the screen here, this wonderful group of diverse and talented graduates. the little brief note there under their names, it doesn't do them justice. Each one of these women is incredibly impressive and successful. And so I want to just give them a chance now to introduce themselves. And if we could start at the top with Amy and just work our way across and allow each graduate to just say a few words, please.
Thanks, Jen. It's good to see everyone on the call, and to my classmates, it's great to see you. We don't get together enough. So Amy Frakes, I am at Corteva Agri-Science here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a BA in legal studies and an MBA in business. So coaching, HR, how does that really fit and how did I get started? And I really took the program because Terry and I had a coaching relationship back when I was at Caterpillar. And Terry really helped change my mindset and self-view of career and what I was able to accomplish and what I could do to really spread that coaching love, as I call it, to other people. And it was really about uplifting and helping people realize their own potential. And that's one of the reasons I joined the program. I'm not actively getting my coaching hours right now, only because I took a different role at the company, but I'm still actively practicing every day. And I'm finding that applying my coaching principles that I've learned with Jen, Ann, and Terry has not only made it a more successful work environment, but my team is actually excited to talk to me every day. So it's about coaching and it's about really raising people up and helping raise their awareness. So I would never change doing the program. In fact, I look forward to our monthly calls where we're doing continuing education. So I wish you all the best of success. And if I can be of assistance, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Amy. And now we'd like to turn our attention to Andrea.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to share, my role prior to starting the program was I was co-founder and president of Lindsay's Conscious Business, a startup for leadership and cultural change, and been doing that for about 3 years. A number of years ago, I took an executive coaching program, but really it was more for leadership development, my own personal leadership development, but it gave me the taste of coaching. And so what I really wanted was to become ICF certified, because I felt like for our startup company, it would be beneficial to have someone on staff that was ICF certified. But my intention wasn't to become a coach. But then once I started through this program, it lit me up, and I ended up leaving my startup to then launch my own coaching and energy medicine practice. And that has been tremendous. I never thought that I would really be of service to others. This coaching program allowed me to find my own self-confidence, it was personally transformative, and it also has helped me then to have better communications and relationships with my colleagues. I still am on the board and work with Lindsay's Conscious Business, but I have better communications with my adult children, my family, and of course, as a coach now, I'm able to serve others in a way I never thought I would. So a little bit of a reluctant healer, if I may. And I just want to say a plug about this program. It is night and day different than the executive coaching program I took. Like, this is leaps and bounds. It's a whole nother level. When Jen talks about mastery, that is exactly what you learn. You walk away being masterful. And I think the value, the financial return on the investment of this program is phenomenal. I think this is comparable to other $10,000 or $15,000 price point programs. So I just encourage you, if you're interested, that this is a phenomenal program.
Thank you, Andrea. And Jan, do we have Jan with us?
I'm here. I was a few minutes late. I apologize.
No need. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Well, I'm Jan Lipsky, and I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in nursing. I had a lengthy career in healthcare and was director of critical care nursing for many, many years. And then I moved into human resources and became the vice president of human resources for a healthcare system in town. And every step along the way, I always went for whatever was the certification, whether it was critical care, human resources, etc. And that was very important to me to become credentialed in whatever field. After that career of 40 years, I wanted to be a coach. I knew that's what I wanted to do next. I wasn't ready to fully retire. And I started coaching through a small company in town. And both of us went through a emotional intelligence certification program under Daniel Goleman, who wrote the book in 1995 on emotional intelligence. And even with that credential, I lost a couple contracts because the VPs of HR, one at the university here in town, they were looking for the coaching credential, more pure coaching than what I'd gotten under Daniel Goleman. And so even though it was 4 times as expensive, like Andrea said, it was pricey, I knew that I needed to keep learning. And Terry Hoffman told me about this program, and I got involved, and it was the best thing I ever did. It strengthened me as a coach immediately. It was so interesting that every lesson, every time we met and covered a competency or one of the PCC markers, I was able to immediately use that the next day with the coaching client. It just was so, everything was so timely and so relevant to what I was doing that it just reinforced that this was the right thing to do. So now I got the chutzpah to start my own company, and that was 2 years ago. So it's Jan Lipsky Coaching. And I separated from the person I'd been working with and decided I can do this. And I've had my own company for a couple years. So I'm just thrilled to be part of cohort 1, very proud of that status, and to be able to help you all as you pursue your interest in cohort 2. And like Andrea, I'm happy to answer questions or be there for you in between or during your experience. Jen, did I leave anything out?
I think you did a beautiful job, Jan, as usual. Jan is our Florence Nightingale and had earned a number of nicknames for the United Nations. And so thank you so much, Jan. And then
Thank you.
Lori.
Hello, my name is Lori Higgins, and I came to this program kind of as an encore. I had spent, 40 years or so in software development, quality, FDA compliance, that kind of thing. My university degree is in mathematics and computer science, and so I kind of went in that techie world. And when I left the corporate job, I started doing some software consulting for a startup company, and was just kind of like, bebopping around and what do I do? And I was working with Marlene, who's our next person up, in kind of a career transition coaching discussion. And we kind of came to the end of our discussion, and she said, you keep talking about coachy kind of things. Maybe you might be interested in coaching. And then she introduced me to this program, and I came into this program really with an acknowledgement that I did like that kind of thing. I'd always used that kind of approach in my work with my corporate colleagues. But I came into this really as a learning experience. Like, what could I learn? And with really no commitment to being a coach, but just like a commitment to learning and seeing what there was to see when I got to that place that I could see something different, And what I saw was that well, first of all, I learned a lot in the program, and mostly I learned a lot about coaching, but I think more importantly, I learned a lot about myself, because it was like very transformative, and it was really kind of fun as well. But I really saw that my prior experience of what I was calling coaching was more like coach-like, you know, because I still was enmeshed in my part of my identity around being a subject matter expert, knowing what there might be to do, giving advice, those kinds of things, which is not what coaching is about. And so I really felt awkward as I went through the coaching training with Jen and Ann and Terry and my cohort members, to really separate that piece of my identity, you know, because like really to come from more of a, you know, connect with my heart rather than my head, and being able to hold space for people in a way that I wasn't really in touch with. So really the breakthrough for me was seeing my success in being a coach. I had to stop doing being a coach. And then the world just kind of opened up, and it's like the switch flipped, and it was like a whole new world. And that was when it got to be kind of fun and rewarding and engaging. And I got kind of lit up about it. And I started a coaching company, and it's called Insights for Outcomes. And I'm just starting it. And it's a whole new adventure. And I really, offer myself as well if there's any questions or support I can provide. And I really enjoy working with this group on an ongoing basis. They're just phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Lori.
You're welcome.
All right, Marlene.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there she is. I was
sorry,
worried there for a minute. I thought we lost you.
I was muted for a second there. Sorry about that. And that's pretty much what I did through all of cohort 1, 2 as well. So, gosh, where do I begin? I was laid off myself 10 years ago from a career in training and development, organizational learning in high tech. And I did not know what I wanted to do next. Went through my outplacement program, found out, people can be these transition coaches. I didn't know that existed before. It was like the sweetest part of what I did in my old job without all the other stuff. And my wonderful mentor who helped me start my business told me I did not need ICF, that it was just this little club down the road. That it wasn't, and I'm sure he's still anti-ICF, but I've had a business for 10 years, and then Jennifer and I supplement my private practice with doing some contract work with a large outplacement firm, and that's how Jennifer and I met. And I heard about our program, and the two things that made me learn more about it was, one, the equilibrium, which I learned later on, but more holistic way of looking, which really resonated with me. The inclusion of neuroscience and happiness theory, two other things I hadn't had a chance to really dive into, and we're continuing those conversations, so that's really good. And then the clincher was the mentoring. So I did a coaching training with a very large worldwide organization about 5 years ago, and I came out of it kind of shell-shocked, and the next step was going to be more money and those thousands of dollars that were mentioned about the mentoring coaching, and I just wasn't in a space to be doing that, so I just let it sit. And then so with the Envision Evolution program, what I got out of it was more than I ever expected. I expected, okay, check the box, get the mentoring, get some more hours, I can move on and get my ICF and get the understanding of what the ICF competency for. What I got out of it was a true buy-in of the ICF competencies and they are now part of me. They're part of my coaching DNA, my whole being DNA. I am still working with an outplacement service, which is can be very tactical and advising, but I find every day there's a moment when I use pure coaching, and I hear from my clients the value of that. And I didn't have that from the other program. The mentoring was fantastic. And another thing is trust. The other program I went through, I was in a room with 40 plus people. And I may talk a lot, but I'm a little shy. I personally, and learning something about myself and being able to go deep into myself with 40 other people, 40 strangers, because it changed every time I had another class, was horrible for me. This group, the smaller group format that that Jen and Ann and Terry are putting together is, if that's your style, it's just warm and cuddly. And just, you know, it was epitomized by the little quilts that Jan made for all of us. It's nice and warm and snuggly. And it just, so I could gush on forever, and I won't. But yeah, the main thing was the mentoring was fantastic. The education was fantastic. I am so solid, and I have a belief in ICF. I'm a proud flag carrying ICF member, which I wasn't to begin with. So there you go.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Marlon, thank you so much. What a great, encouraging message from you. And last but not least, Dr. Mary Lou Cunil, our resident communication expert, and she has so much expertise. I couldn't fit it all under her picture, but Mary Lou, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Yep. Sorry, I can only see you, Jen. So, hi, I'm Mary Lee, and I feel like everything has already been said. So I was going to hit on some high points. So I am a professor of communication by day. I specialize in interpersonal relationships and diversity. And I, in 2018, started a company called Try Communication because I saw specifically some generational issues with students graduating, trying to go into the current workforce. And when I started that company, I began attending ICF North Florida, and I met Terry, who's one of the faculty. Had an awesome relationship with Terry, still have an awesome relationship with Terry, but Terry has really been pivotal in getting my business up and going, specifically because Terry coached me through learning how to ask for money for my value. And you just got to get paid. So it sounds funny, but truly that was transformative for my life by Terry, because I love teaching, but you just don't make as much money teaching as you can doing coaching and working in corporate. And I had a lot of guilt and emotional attachment to that. And Terry sort of helped me sort some of that out through coaching. And because of that experience, that's why I became interested in coaching, because it was literally transformative to my life in every single way. And so then when Terry told me about this experience, I was super excited to get involved. I do want to say, if you are a really logical, practical person, there is room for you. If you are a gushy, emotional person, there's room for you. Because truly, our cohort was so different. We literally have everybody from a shaman to emotional intelligence to people that work in tech and are very like linear thinking, type A. And I felt like that was one of the most beneficial aspects of our cohort, was all the different kinds of brains that you got to see operating, and like Marlon said, really actively participating in the classroom. And I think they already talked about the financial aspect, but hands down, absolutely financially worth it. I will tell you, I have gotten a coaching contract after doing this that already paid for the whole experience. So hands down worth it, return on investment wise. Also, if you haven't looked anywhere else, some of the other opportunities are like year-long educational academic but like $15,000. And as somebody who has a tremendous amount of student debt from getting a doctorate, trust me, if you can go this way, go this way. I did want to say, last thing is, I think in coaching, one of the, well, besides you growing tremendously as a person and getting some great friends out of this experience, this is one of the ways that you will get coaching clients. Is we have all partnered together to coach for each other, to work with each other. Terry and I have bid contracts together. And the more people you know that are involved in coaching, the more clients you will have coming your way. And even since we've graduated 4 months ago, I have done, I have attended things that like Marlon has offered and Andrea has offered that exposed me to other wonderful people. So I think that you can't possibly underestimate the value of the networking opportunity here, not only with old cohorts, but with amazing people that these fantastic folks know. So strongly encourage and would love to answer any questions that you might have. And you are completely welcome. And that will be true from the very beginning through any challenges to the very end. You will always be completely welcome in this space.
Thank you so much, Mary Lee. And we have tonight with us some very special guests, and Jane sends her apologies. She had something unexpectedly come up and she's not able to be here. But I did want to take a moment to acknowledge Susan Steinbrecher, who is with us as a leadership development expert. She's authored 3 books. She's developed proprietary ROI-based coaching system. And her beautiful sister, Julie Zide, who's an executive coach, leadership development, and training expert as well. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wonder if you have any insights you'd like to jump in and share. And I guess just to be orderly, we could start with Susan.
Thanks, Jen, and I'm excited to meet everybody. What an amazing group. This would be an amazing type of group to be partnered with, that is for sure. So I think we can all learn from each other, so that's fantastic. In terms of insights, I think you shared some of the things in the beginning in terms of coaching business being down. I've been in business 29 years this year. And we've never experienced anything like we did in 2020. So like everything came to a screeching halt. And then now it's really picked up pretty considerably, but we also, off the books I've written, we also do a lot of training. We facilitate offsite retreats. So it's not just coaching that's kind of in our forte, I guess I should say. So as coaching kind of went down, some other things went up, but and taking the workshops that we did and kind of flipped it to a virtual experience helped a lot as well, because as soon as we did that, people started buying. So it was like, okay, good. Luckily we flipped the switch very quickly. But yes, coaching certainly went down. I related to the statistics that was offered there. And I've also been one of those folks that never felt the need to be credentialed. It's never stopped me, frankly. And yet I've seen the trend increase. And I had a colleague of mine that unfortunately it's now passed away. And she got very involved in ICF and said, listen, this is what's coming. And I think I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of repeat and referral, and I've never been asked the question if I'm certified. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that isn't going to change. And I'm very aware of that, i.e. why I'm here to learn more and to understand more. And frankly, everybody can learn more and grow more. And there's a lot more I can learn. And so I'm excited about just the opportunity to do that as well. So my intrigue of the program is to continuing my own development and my own learning and my own bag of tricks, so to speak, in the coaching space, but also to take a look at if the future is going to go down that path of credentialing even more. Of course, the trend has been up, as we know, but even more, then it might position me that much more effectively or more keenly if I had the certification. So I still have a lot of questions around what exactly will I learn in this class, and I may have to follow back up with you, Jen, on that. And how does that differ from other just going and doing what I can to become an MCC or a PC or whatever it is. So I still have questions around that I will definitely want to ask. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to meet all of you. What a stellar group of professionals that I would be only so fortunate to be able to partner with. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this tonight.
Doing.
Thank
We'll go
you,
down?
Susan.
You go downstairs?
And have another unexpected guest.
Oh,
Hey!
All right, Julie, you've got quite an intro there.
I cannot beat that.
You can't compete with that dog.
No, not in any way. So I will also echo what Susan said. Thank you so much for inviting me to get to learn about this group. I had heard a little bit from Anne, Jen, when you began, and I was so disappointed that I had not been in a position to be able to be part of the first cohort. Certainly would love to be part of the second cohort. The challenge for me that I will keep exploring, so I'm not going to say no yet, is the commitment to the amount of days per week. As all of you have said, yes, business was off quite a bit last year. I had been part of, in relation to what we're talking about in terms of coaching, I had been very fortunate to do some work with DEI as one of the training companies that I work with. And they've launched a program for first line supervisors up through, we did have some senior VPs jump into some of our coaching classes, but it was generally designed for first level leaders up through about 5 years. Incredible program. And back to what Jim was saying, very targeted, short 30-minute sessions. So I had 6 weeks with each client, and you had to get results in that 6-week period. But it was, and it was all very technology driven. And we were making incredible progress, repeat customers. Unfortunately, when COVID came in, that platform had to be put off to the side. So I say all that to say that there is a very underserved market in 2 aspects: the short coaching and really focusing on those first level leaders. And so if anyone has an interest in pursuing that, I would love to challenge you or do some brainstorming with you around what that would be. And certainly the other piece, just real quickly, is I know also in the training capacity, a lot of the managers that I've been working with are all saying there's a lot of data that they want coaching, and they don't necessarily want it from their boss. So I think that's the other thing to really want to focus on. They recognize that the need is there, but they don't want to have to be that vulnerable with their, their supervisors, with their managers. So I can certainly appreciate that. So any questions about, the short coaching that I can answer for you, or any data around these first level leaders and the desire to be coached? Because again, quite a significant group that is being underserved right now. All right, well, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And again, what a phenomenal group of ladies. So enjoyed our evening with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we have just a few minutes, so we might not be able to take a lot of questions, but certainly if you have any that you would like to raise, please feel free to jump right in now at this time. Or you can, as I mentioned, you can put those in the chat for Anne, and we'll be sure to follow up with you if we can't get those addressed before the conclusion. So I'd like to open it up to everyone here for any questions for faculty, alumni, or our special industry thought leader guests tonight?
So Jen, we have a question about what is the cost of the program? What is the duration and the start date?
Okay, so those are great questions. And you know what, we could probably just move to the next slide, Terry. And you can go out to the website and get really full details about the program. There's a variety of costs. The early registration is starting now through May 15th. And so the early registration cash price is $57.50. And so it depends on when you register, when you enroll, whether you need a payment plan. So there's a little bit of variety there, but I would invite you to go take a look at the website. If you have any questions following looking through the material, certainly reach out and we'll be more than happy to address those questions. The commitment is a 6-month commitment. It is a 150-hour program. So we meet 3 nights a week from 6 to 7. So it's this same time spot we're doing right now. And it will start with the kickoff on July the 10th, which is a Saturday. We'll kick off with the 4-hour launch. And then going forward for the duration, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings from 6 to 7. And the material is delivered. You'll have a textbook. There's also audio files, and there's an LMS system that you'll be able to access through the web to go through your training materials.
And Jen,
Yeah.
I was just going to say something that I didn't really understand before I took class is, even though that is a large time commitment, that's the required that you're going to have to be able to get your ACC. So any group you're going to go through, you're going to have to, it's going to be a big time commitment, right?
Well, now the ACC doesn't have the same number of hours as far as the training hours. The ACC has to have a minimum of 60.
Right.
And then with the experience section, but then they would have to have additional mentoring on top of it.
And that's
So,
right.
but
Training for
PCC,
PCC.
So Jen,
yeah,
one of the things I appreciated about the program that I didn't say was that you come out with, the vision, and I think the reality is performing at a PCC level. And then you're
Yes.
working on getting your hours to the 500 to be able to apply for the credential. But the delivery, the curriculum, the training, and the evaluation is really geared to, formulating mastery kind of from wherever you are to that level, and sort of not the guarantee, I don't want to speak for you, but that's kind of the way I related to it, is like you're coming out with that kind of skill level.
absolutely. Great, well said.
Jen, I would like to add that the workload is totally doable. The hours in class and the homework and the project, and it was so doable. And I appreciated having an hour 3 times a week, because it forces you to move through the material and not get behind, and to digest it and integrate it in real time.
I
Great.
totally agree with that. And it's
Me too.
the other aspect is the audio. I liked the audio with the written, because I would follow along and listen and read it and make my notes. And I'm just like that. I'll go over it 3 times if I need to. But so you're really supported by that. And then in our classes, in our sessions, we would be able to discuss it. So it's definitely a commitment. I don't want anyone to I worked full time while I was doing this. It was definitely a commitment, but I have a master's in instructional design. So I'm super critical. Any of you people that do training development. And I just loved it. I loved the design. I loved the way that everything was integrated, like Andrea said. And the fact that I was able to apply throughout was great.
Jen, can you speak to the additional hours? Because I know you said that you still have, besides the classroom time, there's additional hours for practice and working with the rest of the team. Can you speak to how many hours that is in a week typically?
Well, that can vary. It depends on how fast you read and how much you listen to the audio. So you have the audio book and you also have the textbook. As Marlon mentioned, she liked both, but that is optional. So the ICF has given, during COVID times, they have allowed programs to split the in-class time and the autonomous time 50-50. That has never been done before. But it was for to accommodate for COVID. It used to be 80% required in class, in synchronous learning, and only 20%. So the asynchronous learning is reading the material, going through, listening to the audio files. Working with your group is not necessarily something you will do every week. Okay. That part is going to be up to your group and how you choose to go through your practice sessions. Some of your practice sessions are in class, so we can all benefit from the learning. And then some of them you do independently and do your journaling through that process. So it's not a heavy commitment, but if you think about splitting the program in half, we're spending 75 hours together. And in theory, you're spending approximately 75 hours over 6 months on everything else. So graduates, would you say that sounds about right from your experience?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Right. We did. I'm like Marlon. I like to listen while I look at the text and take my notes. So I'm kind of like multimedia here. But I loved the time that we worked in our triads, or that where we scheduled, pair coaching. That was some of the best time, and that's really, there's a minimum number of sessions about that, but you're welcome to schedule as many as you would like. And then for me, the doing the project, it was actually, I spent more hours doing my project than was allocated as credit for the course, just because I liked it so much and I fooled with it. And I did those kinds of things. So I think a little bit is, what's your personality, what are you drawn to do, would be my guess. Right, Jen?
Yes, and for your own business purposes. So
right.
You might have a project that you need to do for work. You can make that your course project if it's relatable. And so everyone in the group chose something that was going to help them advance their coaching practice. And so you could get academic credit for something that's benefiting your work, as long as it's relatable and corresponds with the coaching.
Right.
So I think I heard you say, if I could just clarify, that start date was July 10th.
Yes.
And end date would be?
The end date is just before Christmas. I think it's December 21st. I'm going on memory, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, and then it's 3 days a week with your cohort group. And then in addition to, from July 10th through December 21st, consistently, yes. It sounds like. Okay, and then on top of that is this the reading or the listening to the material to be ready to have those discussions in the cohort group. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Okay. And each one of those learnings are designed to do what? Meet one of the ICF's credential, I don't know what the
Competencies.
word is,
competencies.
principle or whatever it is.
Yes, it's mastering the competencies that ICF has determined are a way of creating standards for the coaching industry.
Okay. And so the understanding would be when we come out of this, if all goes well and we do well, it would prepare us to be at what level of the credential?
PCC level. Now the clincher is there nobody goes and gets a credential with ICF following training unless it's an ACC. That's kind of changed over the years. When I went for the MCC, the portfolio path did not block anyone from starting with nothing, but that is not the case anymore. So if you're going to apply for the MCC, you have to hold or at least have held a PCC previously. So there is not only the educational requirement, but then the coaching hours post training. And for you, Susan, I know you've got an ICF accredited program, I believe. There might be some differentiators in there for you. I'm not sure about that. There's some gray area there. But for the average person who is walking in without any kind of coach specific training that is accredited by ICF, that person would be expected to start their training before they began accumulating coaching hours. So in your 29 years, you probably have 5 million coaching hours, but ICF doesn't look at it.
I was going to ask that because I was told that if you've had a lot of experience that you basically get credit for that, but there's some other loopholes you have to get through. Like
okay, that's what I was thinking. There might be some gray
I was
areas
just curious about that, and that's what I thought. I can take that offline and just discuss that with you individually.
Yeah, and I can, if you want to, Susan, you can talk to me because I have a lot of hours going into this. And so I'm in the process right now.
Okay.
And and Jennifer and Terry have been helpful with that as well.
Great. Thank you I appreciate that.
Sure.
All right. So I appreciate everyone sticking with us. We went a bit over, my apologies, but thank you all for your engagement. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I want to be respectful of your time as well. So if there are any additional questions, I'm more than happy to schedule one-on-one calls, or you can email us and we will tackle them and get back to you. Is that all good? And if we could have the final screen back up, if anybody needs that for the link, or maybe not. So feel free to book an appointment if you have additional questions I can answer for you, or if you are wanting to look further into what's required to register and go through the program, check out our website, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
So enjoyed meeting all of you.
Yes, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.